I lost $33,000 in my first 2 years selling jewelry, and I'm about to tell you exactly how I blew through that money, making mistakes that felt like really smart business decisions at the time. I spent $15,000 on Facebook ads that generated pretty much zero sales, $3,000 on a photographer before I even knew if people wanted my jewelry, $1,000 on SEO when I had 12 website visitors per month, and $10,000 on inventory, $4,000 on events that were completely wrong for my brand. Every single mistake felt completely logical when I was making them. I wasn't being reckless, I was just following advice from the experts. But I was doing all the right things at completely the wrong time and in the wrong order. So if you're spinning your wheels, working harder but not seeing results, or you're investing money but not seeing returns, I guarantee you're making at least 3 of these same mistakes right now. And here's what nobody wants to tell you about building a jewelry business. The advice that works for really established businesses will absolutely bankrupt a new business. Ask me how I know. Everybody is always talking about professional photography, running ads, attending a big trade show, and they're right eventually. But when you do these things in the wrong order, they become really expensive mistakes instead of smart investments. And most business advice kind of assumes that you already have customers, proven products, and cash flow. But when you're starting out, you need a completely different playbook. The makers who succeed fastest are not the ones who invest the most money. Ones who invest money in the right things at the right time. And so you're probably following advice that is meant for businesses that are already profitable, and you're confusing being busy with making progress, and you're trying to skip the boring foundational work and jump to the fun stuff. You know, the photo shoots, the influencer collabs, the fancy packaging, and you're investing in solutions for problems that you don't have just yet. You're buying software for a team you haven't hired, you're optimizing for traffic you don't have, you're creating systems for scale that you have not reached yet. And here's the brutal truth. You fail because you're romanticizing entrepreneurship instead of treating it like a business, which it is. You are more excited about being a jewelry designer than actually selling jewelry. Am I right? Now, I want to talk about the 10 most expensive mistakes that I made. So, mistake number 1, over-investing in inventory before proving demand. I spent $10,000 creating inventory to look like a real established business. I had something to prove to my old boss, and this backfired on me big time because it tied up cash, it created pressure to move the product quickly. So I recommend you start with 3 to 5 pieces maximum, even just 1 piece, and let the customer demand guide production. The mistake number 2 is professional photography before product market fit. I spent around $3,000 on photography before knowing if people wanted to buy my jewelry. And it backfired because, quite honestly, beautiful photos of products that hadn't proven that they'd sell didn't make an impact to my sales. So I recommend using iPhone photos until you are consistently selling out. And then mistake number 3 is the build it and they will come mentality. I spent months perfecting my website. I launched my pieces and then I waited. I launched to crickets. And this backfired so bad because nobody knew I existed. So I want you to start selling before you're ready. Sell from Instagram, DMs, at markets, to friends. Talk about your jewelry. Talk about it before there's this fancy website in place. Talk about it before everything is all lined up. Mistake number 4 is I spent $15,000 in Facebook ads without understanding my customer. So I hired 2 top ad agencies in Toronto because, hey, that's what serious businesses do. It backfired because I didn't know my ideal customer. My messaging was off. My niche hadn't been validated. I didn't even know if the pricing was right. And so my recommendation is do not run ads until you can sell consistently through organic methods. I recommend 8 to 10,000 a month in organic sales before you start dabbling in ad spend. Now, mistake number 5. SEO investment. With 12 website visitors, I spent around $1,000 on SEO optimization. SEO, it needs content, it needs traffic, and it needs time, and I really didn't have that. And it's not how I recommend new businesses try and stand out. It's really hard to get ranked high on Google. I'd much rather that you save SEO for later when your business is more established and focus first on sending people directly to your website or selling in events or straight to stores. Mistake number 6 is I booked the wrong events for my brand. I paid $4,000 for massive trade shows in Toronto, and it backfired because my handmade jewelry was wrong for the bargain hunting crowds, which typically these big events draw in the bargain hunters. It is not a fun time. So my recommendation is start with small local markets to test products and pricing. When you find the right fit, you can make way more money at a 4-hour small event in the right location than these big 3-day events. Mistake number 7 is not knowing what actually drives revenue. I know, sounds crazy, but I spent days on businessy tasks that felt productive. And it backfired so bad because none of it generated sales. I was very, very busy. I was working long hours, but I was broke. And so what I want you to do is focus 80% of your time on revenue driving activities. So that includes reaching out to customers, posting to social media, writing out emails, building your email list, doing events, reaching out to stores, following up on inquiries, those revenue driving tasks. The 8th mistake I made was building systems before having anything to systematize. I invested in software and workflows for 5 sales a month, and it backfired because it created complexity without adding value. So my recommendation is do things manually until it is actually required and it's actually your business is ready for that problem to be solved, and then we can implement those systems as you grow into that space in your business. Mistake number 9 is vanity metrics, revenue metrics. I see this all the time, and I obsessed over followers. I obsessed over website visitors, and it backfired because I built a following, but not a business. And so I want you to track conversion rates, profit margins, customer acquisition cost. Super, super important. Don't put vanity metrics over the revenue driving metrics in your business. The 10th mistake I made was brand building before understanding my brand. So what I did was I spent thousands on logos, brand guidelines, all that good stuff. My business looked good. It looked very professional from the outside. But I had created this identity around assumptions and not customer insights, not from talking to real customers and having them experience my pieces and try them and wear them and having that conversation and letting my brand evolve through customer feedback and sales. So, when I look back, I just wish somebody had come to me, grabbed my hand and said, Robin, stop trying to look like a successful business and start actually being one. Because every dollar I spent on looking professional, I could have been spending that time understanding my customers, testing products, building real relationships with buyers and with stores. And the makers who really succeed the fastest, they make smaller bets and they test everything. And they only invest money in things that are already working or that are going to give them the skills to learn how to do that effectively. They're not more talented than you. They're not luckier than you. They're just more strategic about when and where they invest their limited resources. So your jewelry business doesn't have to cost you $33,000 like I did to figure it out. You can learn from my expensive mistakes and focus on what actually drives sales from day one. So here's your homework. I want you to be really honest with yourself. Look at your expenses from the last 6 months. How much did you spend on things that felt professional but didn't directly generate sales? I want you to calculate your time and look at how much time did you spend last week on activities that didn't directly lead to sales or to conversions. And I have a $1,000 test for you. If you had to start over completely from the beginning tomorrow with $1,000 and could only spend it on activities that directly generate sales, what tasks would you do? Most jewelry makers spend money to feel like they're making progress instead of spending money to actually make progress. And they invest in looking successful instead of just being successful. And the ones who build profitable businesses the fastest get comfortable being scrappy. They embrace messy action until they are successful, and they stack those wins. They use their iPhone for photos until pieces sell out consistently. They sell from Instagram DMs and content and markets until they need a website. They do everything manually until systems become necessary. So stop asking yourself, what would a successful business do? And just start asking, what is the smallest thing that I can do today to make a sale? Your profitable jewelry business is waiting. It doesn't require a $30,000 investment like mine did. It just requires focus, strategy, and the discipline to do the boring revenue generating tasks before the fun brand building work. And the question isn't whether you'll make mistakes, because you 100% will. The question is whether you'll make the expensive mistakes that I made, or smaller, cheaper mistakes that teach you what actually works. And my recommendation is choose the smaller mistakes. Choose the scrappy action over perfect planning. Choose proven strategies over shiny tactics. Your future profitable self will thank you for every dollar you don't waste and every smart decision that you make starting today. And if avoiding these expensive mistakes is something that you are wanting to do, just know that this is only half the battle. You can stop wasting money on Facebook ads and professional photography, but you'll still struggle if you don't know what actually sells jewelry. I remember after I stopped making these mistakes, I had to figure out why some jewelry makers sell out in days while others just sit on thousands of dollars of inventory. And the difference wasn't really their quality or the prices of their jewelry. It came down to their approach to launches, and in my next video, I'm breaking down the 4 simple strategies that turn a $47 launch into a sold-out collection. These aren't expensive tactics. They're psychological triggers that make people actually want to buy your jewelry instead of just admiring it on Instagram. So if you want to know how to turn your beautiful pieces into consistent sales, watch the video next, and I will see you there.